In this video clip, I'm currently on a tram in Basel. And I would say in Switzerland. Well, I could have said it a few seconds ago, but now I'm in France. This tram has just crossed a border, a tram route between two countries. Now, this is not an intercity form of transport going between two different places in different countries like some sort of big trip from one country to another. No, this is ordinary local transport. People use this tram as part of their daily life. You could live at one of the tram stops in France and board this tram as your regular daily commute into work into Switzerland. Also, this tram system is even more extensive than this, as the tram system even goes into Germany. One tram system going across 3 countries. This here is a former border control centre, but it's been repurposed as a tram stop. There's no longer active border guards here. People go freely between Switzerland and Germany. And they've actually converted it to a tram stop. A tram stop literally located spanning between 2 different countries. This means depending on where you stand on the platform, you could be standing in Germany or you could be standing in Switzerland. Or if you stand at the right spot on the platform, you could be in both Germany and Switzerland at the exact same time. Now, when a tram serves this tram stop, nothing special happens. It just opens its doors, people get on and off, close its doors, and the tram continues. There's no border check. Serving this tram stop is no different to serving any other tram stop. And again, people are just using this tram as part of their daily life, going between 2 different countries like it's normal, because it is normal. And that is thanks to Schengen. Now we take a look at the small village of Ostritz in Germany. But Ostritz doesn't have a train station. But it does. Except the train station is just across the border in Poland. Now you would think that must have Polish trains serving at a station. But no, this is actually a German train route. All of the stops this train route stops at are in Germany, apart from just this one stop in Poland. But it's bordering a German town, and all of the trains are German trains, meaning that this is effectively just another German station that just so happens to be just across the border in Poland. But it's stopping here to serve a German village when there's not really anything much on the Polish side. This means that German people that live in Ostritz, when they want to take a train to another part of Germany, they have to cross the border into Poland just to pick up their German train. But that's not a problem, all thanks to Schengen. Now let's take a look at the town of Bâle-Nassau in the Netherlands and Belgium. Now this town is split up into little areas that are part of the Netherlands and other areas in the town which are part of Belgium. And there's markings on the pavement to show which parts are in Belgium and which parts are in the Netherlands. It's like a network of mini exclaves. But people can walk freely around this town and it doesn't make any difference to them which country they're actually in. And this time, this is actually not thanks to Schengen, because this actually predates Schengen, as this is part of Benelux, a free movement area consisting of the Netherlands, Belgium and Luxembourg, which later got merged into the wider Schengen area when the Schengen Treaty was signed. So, let's now take a look at the village of Schengen in Luxembourg, the village where the Schengen Treaty was signed. This village is a symbol of peace and freedom. It symbolises countries working together. It symbolises people being able to just freely go across the region, with country borders now becoming entirely symbolic. Now, this has also got a similar railway setup, where the railway station for Schengen is just across the border in Germany, and it's called Pearl Schengen. Now, Schengen is located on a tri-point, a point where 3 countries meet, the countries of Luxembourg, Germany and France, making it the perfect location to sign the Schengen Agreement, a treaty of peace and freedom. The freedom to travel, the freedom to move about, the freedom to be a citizen of one country, work in a different country and live in a different country again. This is ultimate freedom. Freedom that is now under threat. In recent years, things are starting to take a turn for the worse. What was the symbol of ultimate freedom and countries working together is collapsing. Let's take a look at the cities of Copenhagen and Malmö. Because of Schengen, people started treating these two cities as one city. People would regularly take a train on their everyday commute, travelling between Copenhagen and Malmo like they were just different parts of the same city, when actually they're in different countries. Copenhagen's in Denmark and Malmo is in Sweden. But that didn't matter. People could simply treat them as one city, all thanks to Schengen. And things were all going well. People were happily travelling freely. Until one day. The day the border checks were reinstated, causing absolute chaos as no one was expecting it. Everyone was late for work, and some people even forgot to take their passports because they forgot they even needed to, which caused them to have problems with the border guards. The checks were reintroduced because of fear and paranoia, for multiple reasons of countries becoming scared that criminals were crossing borders easily, which to be honest, even if they had border checks, that wouldn't really change anything. And the big issue of the moment, which everyone is fucking obsessed about, which I'm sick of hearing of, is Mr. Nigel Farage's favourite, immigration. Because of obsession and fears, and let's face it, racism around the subject of immigration, that has caused countries to reinstate their borders. So, let's now just change subject for a moment and talk about the UK, which ultimately nowadays I feel will never actually join Schengen. Before Brexit, I was hoping that things were going in a positive direction, that one day the UK could actually join Schengen and be like the rest of Europe. This is back quite a few years ago now when things were still going well. Things felt like it was progress. When I was a child, I looked to the future, thinking the future is always better than the past. Things always progress forwards. I was wrong. Because I used to think that one day the UK would fully join Europe and join Schengen. But what happened? Brexit happened. The opposite. Rather than the country progressing further, the country regressed. Went backwards. Lost 50 years of progress overnight, all thanks to Nigel Farage and Brexit. So my dreams of England joining Schengen will never actually happen, which pisses me off, especially every time I'm in a passport queue at Stansted Airport. We were treated like a cow in a slaughterhouse. And the whole thing is depressing, disgusting. You have to go to the machine that verifies if it's you automatically, and if it doesn't, you're sent off to a border guard who's a racist cunt. You see him being really nasty to anyone that's got dark coloured skin. It's like the job description is, be a racist. Are you a racist? Well, welcome to your new job as border guard. But another thing that pisses me off is they always question me of why I'm going into the UK. I'm a citizen. Why I just travelled abroad is irrelevant to them, yet they still want to know every detail of my trip. And I was hoping one day that border in Stansted would be abolished. It'd be gone. We can just walk freely into the country when we get off the plane. But my dreams of Schengen were completely shattered. Shattered because of Nigel Farage and Brexit, but now shattered even further with the collapse of Schengen. So, the problem is, it's ultimately the same narrative as in both the UK and ultimately what's going through Europe at the minute. Immigration phobia, which is stupidity, it's ridiculous, I'm sick of hearing of it, and in the UK I am sick of seeing all of these stupid fucking flags they're putting up. The far right are on the rise. Nigel Farage is predicted to be the Prime Minister in the next general election. We are living in scary times. The UK's utterly fucked. And if you just go on Instagram, scroll through some of the accounts in the far right protests and look at the comments and how everyone's agreeing with the racism. It's like being a fucking racist far right cunt has become normalised. But that's what's happening in the UK. Meanwhile, in the EU, it actually seems scarily similar. In Germany, you've got the rise of the AfD. In France, you've got the rise of the National Rally. But it's even spreading beyond those two particular parties which make headlines. A fact that Schengen is falling apart is a sign that it's not just talk. It's actually happening. Schengen is actually collapsing. Now border checks have been reintroduced by most of the countries. Like, it doesn't mean you're literally going to see a border guard every time you cross a border, because ultimately there's so many footpaths and routes across the borders now, it's no longer going through border cuts. It makes the border very hard to police, meaning the checks are now random. That means that one day you could be happily crossing a border from Germany to Poland just like normal, and all of a sudden a huge 5-hour queue appears as a random border check suddenly happens. It is depressing. Look at this map of where the border checks have been. It shows every border where in at least one direction they've introduced checks. It's pretty much all of it. Is this the end of an era? Have we passed the tip of the best Europe can be and it's now in decline? And we're now 10 minutes into the video and I haven't even got on to the worst part. Things are even worse than this because they've now introduced stricter border checks for people who are not citizens of Schengen or EU countries entering into Schengen. And thanks to Brexit, the UK is one of the countries has now been hit with harder entry checks into the Schengen region. So, from the 12th of October onwards, you now have to give up your fingerprints to enter Schengen. The Schengen zone has now changed from the symbol of peace and freedom, the symbol of authoritarianism. How is this a symbol of peace and freedom, having to give a fingerprint just to enter a region? They are collecting fingerprints of you that the UK government doesn't even have unless you're a criminal. That is an infringement on civil liberties. That is an infringement on your rights. But that is what's happening. And the EU seems hard set on this. The only way out of it is if the UK rejoin the EU, which doesn't look like it's going to happen. So, with that said, ultimately that's me saying goodbye to Schengen. Because why the fuck should I be giving my fingerprints just to enter a region like that? Fingerprints that the UK government doesn't even have. So, that is me finished with the Schengen area. As well as not wanting to give my fingerprints, I've also pretty much seen it all now. I've been travelling a lot, and I've seen all of the best stuff Schengen has to offer. And I've now got other priorities. Because after I visited places like Tunisia and Egypt, and when I visited the real places, not the tourist attractions or any of that crap, but real Egypt, and you see how people live, it is different to Europe. Because people in Egypt have a more sort of a reality check. They're more in touch with the real world. In a way where it's quite hard to explain. It's like our daily lives are like, oh, I want this item. Go to a market. Hey, give me that item. I'll give you £1. No, I want £3. Oh, what about £1.10? That's more than just like bargaining at markets. It's very sort of direct. But it's more than that. It's hard to explain if you don't go there. Because if you see like videos of like Africa or somewhere that's poor, it just looks like poverty. But you don't get it unless you actually experience it in real life. Because it isn't just poverty. It's more than that. It's people who are directly in touch with the real world. In some ways, people act really childish. It's like people don't fully grow up into adults. They live their whole life as a child, just going after their direct needs in the moment without any sort of further thoughts. If someone wants something, I'll just go and do it. And there's bad parts of that because there's like litter everywhere where people don't recycle. I'm not saying the third world's good, but it's more interesting as a traveller to go and visit it. And more than that, people who live in impoverished third world countries actually genuinely seem happier than people that live in first world countries. In the EU, people have everything they need, yet people always seem not as happy as people in the third world who, despite being poor, seem really happy with their lives. A better way to put it is the people who live in third world countries are living in the moment. I'm not explaining it very well because it's one of those things that it's hard to convey with words. You can only get it when you see it. I can't really fully explain it just from talking in a video like this. So let's try putting this a different way to try and explain what I'm saying. By all measures of quality of life, people in Europe are having much better lives than people in impoverished countries. But that is like a statistic. In practice, things aren't so cut and dry. And often people in the most poorest places seem to be somehow in touch with the real world in a weirdly happier way than people, for example, in England. As most people in England seem pretty thoroughly depressed nowadays. They get up every morning to go out on a commute to a job which they hate doing, work long hours to get minimum wage, to come back home to spend that money on bills. And to be honest, for what? What is the point in any of that? What are people really getting out of life? So what are people doing it for? Well, a lot of people are doing it because they want children. So they have children who then go to school to have all their joy taken away from them, be turned into work-ready, miserable, pretty much slaves, just to slave away at a minimum wage job so that they then have children, so the cycle repeats. What is the point of any of that? Because I don't see much point in it. Meanwhile, people in Africa and the poor parts of Asia, Despite having much, much worse lives, somehow they seem to be connected in a realistic way to the real world, to the point where they're actually getting something out of life. Kind of treat each day like some sort of adventure, like some sort of playfulness that normally only children would see the world like at. It's really hard to explain it if you don't actually visit these places, but that's what I want to make my priority, visiting those kind of places. Because weirdly, they are better to travel to than Europe. So why would I want to travel to Schengen and give away my fingerprint to visit places I've either already seen or the smaller parts of Schengen which I haven't seen, which there's a few bits of it I'd still like to see. Like Portugal Islands is a place I never got to, Vilnius, the capital of Lithuania. There's always going to be a couple more places I want to visit which I didn't get to, but in reality the places I really want to get to are the further away places. Places like India, Bangladesh, South Africa. I don't know how I'm going to afford to get to any of those places, but those places are better. So that is me saying goodbye to Schengen. It's been amazing exploring Schengen. I've had loads of brilliant adventures, such as my big adventures across Germany, where I've been out for very long periods of time just camping and exploring all the trains because they've got the Deutschland ticket. Brilliant places like Benidorm. It's been absolutely amazing. But it's kind of like I've now done it. I've completed it. I've now moved on. So that's now me saying farewell to the Schengen area. Until things change, that is me now saying farewell and goodbye to Schengen.